Hello? I'm even louder now. That's great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joe Sackman. I'm Executive Director of the Long Island Progressive Coalition here, co-hosting with Shinnecock Kelp Famers as we present a water protection town hall. We're going to have, I think, a pretty interesting and informative day where we will talk about what is happening in Suffolk County around water protection, what the Shinnecock Kelp Famers have been doing to deal with the nitrogen in the water, and what the county and towns are doing, also dealing with nitrogen in our water. And so we'll start off with a welcoming from Becky Ginia, who's with the Shinnecock Kelp Famers. Then we'll start a presentation from them describing what they're doing, and then we'll go to Tom Barley, who is with Stony Brook University, has expertise on water treatment, and then we'll have a panel including the Kelp Famers, Tom and Welker, who is County Legislator District 2, and Michael Iaselli, who is with the Southampton Town Council. We'll also have an advocacy training, which I think is really important. So usually these town halls we give you a bunch of information, but we're also going to tell you about how these things happen and how you can advocate for yourself. And, and then we'll wrap up from there. This is recorded, so if anyone's uncomfortable with that, don't worry. They probably won't see you, they'll see us. And we'll be posted on YouTube and shared out. So again, thank you for coming out on what turns out to be, looks like a beautiful day. They said there'll be lots of rain. Hopefully we've avoided that. And we're going to start off. So I'm going to hand this over to Becky, and I appreciate you welcoming us.
Thank you. May. Hakame, everyone. That means welcome
So you want to go in?
in my language, in our language, the Shinnecock language. And first of all, I would just like to sing a song to welcome everyone. It's a water song. And in English, it means, water, we love you. Water, we honor you, protect you, and respect you. And it's meant to be a lullaby. So usually, some people do use a rattle and a drum sometimes. I forgot my rattle anyway, so. But most of the time, it is meant to be sung by the ocean, or any body of water really, but we do love to sing this song by the ocean. Nipe kizage iko kimigwe chewene miko kijawene miko nipe kizage iko kimigwe chewene miko kijawene miko. I would like to read what we like to call a land acknowledgement, and it's a practice that has been going on for years now to let those know where they are, where we are in the world, where we are all together, where you live. So it's a land acknowledgement. Hakame, that means welcome in my language. My name is Rebecca Ginia. I'm from the Shinnecock tribe, the Shinnecock Nation. I also like to say the Shinnecock tribe because tribe means family. Nation can be political, can be all over, but I am from the Shinnecock tribe. That is my family. Long Island is the ancestral homeland of 13 tribes, including Shinnecock, Cochac, Montauk, and Matinecock. And don't let me forget the Settlecocks. We have been here on our sacred Sewanaka, island of shells, since time immemorial. When my ancestors welcomed the settlers in June of 1640, we shared everything with them. They were hungry, tired, homeless, lost, and pitiful. Since then, greeting them, our indigenous numbers have dwindled, like the land beneath our feet, to make way for a new lifestyle. Our Shinnecock, Long Island, once a paradise of pristine and natural beauty, has been transformed into an unrecognizable place, now totally overdeveloped and in crisis mode. We all live on this land now, and the time has come to repair, restore, and regenerate. It is do or die. The earth is shaking and talking to us. We have to listen to her. The entire world is in a fragile state of imbalance and is suffering due to the carelessness of humankind. Together, and with the right leadership, we can take better care of our sacred planet to ensure our children and many more generations have a good and healthy place to live. May the great creator of this universe bless and guide every one of us to do our part for the sake of Mother Earth, who provides us with everything we have.
Thank you, Becky. Okay, so we are going to start off, and I'm going to invite Tia the Troche from the Kelp Farmers to come and join us, and we're going to talk about kelp farming. And this is happening right here in Southampton. I think it's really, it is a really interesting and important thing that they're doing. I hand it off to Tia.
Thank you so much, Joe, and I want to invite Wiedemo, Denise Silva Dennis to join me up front, as well as my mom, Darlene Troche, who is one of the co-founders, together with Becky and myself. To just give you an introduction to the Shinnecock Kelp Farmers. I see a lot of familiar faces, but a lot of new faces as well. So I just want to ground us in place before we begin to acknowledge that we are on Shinnecock Territory's land. This is our Aboriginal land, and we have been given the responsibility to protect this place for the next 7 generations. We have that obligation to steward the environment and protect the Mother Earth. That's an obligation that has been carried on by women in my community for many generations, and I'm very honored to be here with elders who have inspired very much the work that we do on a daily basis. Our work really got started after 2019. Becky was featured in a film called Conscious Point, which if you have not seen, I highly recommend that you watch. It has to do with the overdevelopment of this region and the really destructive consequences that have resulted to our community, primarily the loss of our food systems. And that's agricultural, land-based food systems, as well as water, aquaculture-based systems. The prior presidential administration declared a federal fisheries disaster zone of when we lost 99.99% of our Peconic Bay scallops, which are incredibly important to us as people. It's an incredibly important fishery, and we became really concerned to, not many people know, but the first currency in the United States was wampum. And wampum has been produced by our tribe since time immemorial. It's a natural resource, but in recent years it became very hard for us to carve it. We began this sense that we were losing some of our cultural legacy and our ability to tell the story of what was happening here with the degradation to our environment caused by capitalism, exploitive corporations, billionaires, these folks that we have called our neighbors since 1640, who have really built these like international corporations and resourced themselves and their companies on our stolen land and labor. And so we've really been threatened. Here's an example of the wampum that I'm talking about. And this was so valued once by the colonists. It was quickly devalued when they realized how significant it is. But we started really getting worried when we couldn't carve it into beads anymore. And so we decided to look for a solution around the same time in 2019. And our nation commissioned a study with the Peconic Estuary Partnership that advised that we should surround our entire territory, our entire Shinnecock Peninsula, with sugar kelp in order to address ocean acidification, which is really making the shells really brittle. And so around the same time, the film came out, and we were approached by a group called Green Wave, who do regenerative ocean farming. And they asked us, they said, would you have any interest in seaweed? And so being an attorney and knowing the struggle, the really plight that we experience on our 32-year quest for federal recognition, and how important legally a group of cases called the seaweed cases were, which established our right to seaweed as a natural resource, as well as it fulfilled a requirement that the United States has that other jurisdictions recognize our sovereignty, which is our right to this natural resource. And so we started the Shinnecock Kelp Famers. A lot of people think it's just simply about farming seaweed, but it's really about asserting our sovereignty and continuing these traditions, which were laid out in treaty as early as 1659. If you go back in the early land records and deeds, there's all of these rights that are expressly reserved to us. And so we are very concerned at the management of the fisheries currently by New York State DEC. We feel like there's a lot of damage being done to the environment. We hear about it on the news, what's happening. And sometimes, you could get paralyzed by that fear. Well, like, what am I going to do about it? But we decided that we were going to collectively take action. And I'm going to invite my elders here. I think it's really powerful and important that we acknowledge their memories of what this place used to be like compared to what it's like now, why they decided to co-found the Shinnecock Kelp Famers to take action, and why it's important for everyone here to take the action that we're going to be recommending upon hearing about learning more about the problem today. So I'll pass it first to Becky, but if each of you wouldn't mind just, again, briefly going over your memories of what the water used to be like versus concerns you see now for future generations who will be here.
Thanks, Tila. What I usually like to tell people is the memories that I have of, when we were young teenagers. Darlene and I, we was a little younger. Tila's way younger. When we would go to the beach, right on Shinnecock, because we're a peninsula, and we were able to, and Avery's here, he remembers, we all went down to the beach to get clams. And we could get mussels by the tons, we would get eels, and we would go home and have a feast. And we could just eat from we would eat snails too. They were delicious. Mussels, sometimes we wouldn't even make it home. We would just, set up right there at the beach and have our clams and scallops and mussels, everything. And that's the way we grew up. And also knowing that surrounding us, the millionaires and billionaires were there ever since we could remember. and knowing that they treated the land a whole lot differently than we did. And it was like two worlds when we were on the shores of Shinnecock, looking right over there across Hetty Creek to the millionaires and the billionaires on Dune Road. And, you know, knowing that they're all on our ancestral lands and they don't treat the land like we do. And, but we still have to, you know, check ourselves. We have 800 acres left to take care of because we were, you know, relegated to the neck in 1859, and we had to leave the Shinnecock Hills and get onto this peninsula, which was in the swamp, and we made the best of it, the best we could, because it was told to us that we were probably going to die within 2 generations. That was going to be the rest of the Shinnecocks. We'll be rid of them, we'll be done with them. But we didn't, we're still here. So, all of that to say that we have got to collectively now take a look at our own backyards, literally, take care of our septics, our sewers, whatever's going on in there, and to make sure that we always know environmentally what we can do to make sure that things are going to be okay for the next 7 generations. And believe me, we take it seriously. And again, another story I tell people, my best friend was my great-grandfather, who was born in 1880, I think. He was my best friend, and he died when I was 8 years old. So you have my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my mother, me, my children, my grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren who are here living on Shinnecock. We all live in the same house. 7 generations. We take this seriously. We're in the middle. They say that we're in the middle of the 7 generations. There's 3 behind us, 3 ahead of us, and this is who we are. So, you know, we welcome you to not only our ancestral territory, but please take care of this earth. We have one planet.
When we say the word Hakame, it's welcome. So we welcome you here today to join us. And when Becky sings her song, to respect the water, to recognize the water, and to remind us that we all share the water. So this is not a song or a story that's limited to indigenous people or people that live in a certain space or place, but it's place-based where we all are. A memory as a child was any ache and pain or scrape that you had, you were sent by the elders to soak in Shinnecock Bay. And a beautiful healing
Generational solution that will enable my kids and your grandkids and their kids to be able to continue to enjoy the bounty of the sea that all of us have come to love about this area, how we could support families, we could support the fishery, we could support the economy by taking action at our own homes. And I really hope that you not only take the action for yourself, but help and assist your friends and your neighbors to do this, because collectively, all together, we can solve this problem that is affecting all of us. And we're really on the front line because it's not really our way to go to the grocery store and get food. My grandfather always told me that there's never going to be anything to worry about because we could always live off the land and we could always go get dinner in the bay, but that's not true anymore. So we're really in a crisis, and we're really in a situation where we have to take action. And so this is something that you can do to help us. And so just thank you so much for being here. We're probably way over time, Joe.
Sorry, Joe. I think I turned you off.
All right, thank review. I mean, there's lots to take home with this, and it is memories of the past. You know, thanks for going down memory lane, station wagons. I remember those. But things that we didn't really consider 30, 40 years ago. You know, the water is always going to be here. Everything's fine. And then we start hearing things like the Bluff Canal, and the water's not good to drink. And talking about 7 generations, which I think is a great perspective. It's not just to think of the moment, but think about what's going to be here tomorrow when we're gone. And that's ensuring that there will be new memories to create, good memories. And that is why we're here. We are not just here to talk about cleaning the water and protecting the water, but also our future. So thanks again. This has been a great partnership. We've had a great partnership with Shinnecock Kelp Famers, and hopefully we create lots more memories together and doing lots of great things. And now we're going to talk about what we can do in our own backyard. So I'm going to invite Tom to come up, and he's going to talk about septic tanks.
Nitrogen septic system. So I'm going to tell you all about that. I'm going to talk a little bit about the problem. You've heard it before. I think everybody has said it. I think everybody knows it. We have a nitrogen problem, and it causes a lot of problems. Toxic algae. It talks about the acidity, fish kills, shellfish poisoning. This is a map that the Global Lab puts out every year. And it just shows the overall water quality of that's impacted, and it's all of Long Island. But if you really notice in the South Shore areas, you have a lot of concentration in the water quality issues we have. We have closed bays. So aside from the surface water qualities, Suffolk County is our sole source aquifer. So we actually have, we're in the top 5% of nitrate levels in the United States. And the drinking water standard that was established for nitrates is 10 milligrams per liter. But what we're finding, there's a lot more studies coming out that are showing that nitrate levels, even down to 3 parts per million, is increasing some causes of cancer. So we have a twofold problem with the nitrogen. One is it's choking our water bodies, and 2, it's affecting our drinking water. So where does the nitrogen come from? And there's a number of sources, but by far the major source of nitrogen is coming from our on-site septic systems, much more than fertilizers on there. I did a picture. I was working with Sarah Davidson, Friends of Georgia Capon, and she said, can you go to Home Depot and take some bags of fertilizer and put it on a cart that'll represent how much nitrogen somebody discharges from their home? So I said, okay. So I did the math, and I went, and I was surprised. People are looking at me at Home Depot because I'm taking a map with a poster on there. But it was a lot. It was like over 10 bags of fertilizer. And for most homes, you use a bag, of fertilizer on there. So it's a lot more concentration that we're getting. So there's a lot of big difference between conventional tanks and low nitrogen systems. But it's really, we have to get it at the source. They're the things that you're hearing about, the kelp farming and other things that are trying to attack the nitrogen that are already in the water bodies. We need to reduce it from the source. So a standard tank septic system discharges around 80 parts per million or 80 milligrams per liter of nitrogen. The new county standard is 19. So even seasonal homes contribute to nitrogen. I've had folks tell me, well, I'm just here in the season, so I really don't have an impact. So I did the math with it. I said, look, the amount of nitrogen that you're discharging at 80 parts per million just for the summer months is equivalent to somebody living there full time, but with a low nitrogen system. So we all have an impact on what we do. So this is just a little picture of what a standard tank looks like. So you might have heard the terms, just increase their grants up to 25,000. They used to be 10,000. And then the town of Southampton has the CPF rebates, and that's $20,000 if you're in the water protection zones. And most recently, the town has expanded those zones. So there was properties that were just outside the zone, and most of the time now that I review where the grants availability are. So if you're in Southampton town, most likely you're going to be available for $65,000. So what does that mean? Well, the average cost of an install of a septic system in western Suffolk is around $30,000. For eastern Suffolk, it's around $36,000. Now, every home is different, so everybody has different properties, different water levels, so it could be more or less there, but that's the average cost. So that means now you can get an upgrade on your septic system for no cost. So the basic steps are you submit the grant applications, you contract a design professional, and he's going to size it for your property. Suffolk County grant's very specific. You have to use somebody from their list of approved contractors. The town, you'd apply for a building permit or a septic registry. It's not really a full building permit, it's just a registry really to upgrade your system. The county comes out, inspects the installation, and the county grant is paid directly to the installer, and then you would submit your other expenses to Southampton for rebate. So what to expect from an install? And I think this is important because, you know, you hear about the grants, like, well, what's involved in it? So here's some pictures. Well, they're going to need to excavate the property, okay? So it's important when you work with your engineer to design a system, where is it going to go? A lot of times people have small properties, so it's going to go where your existing septic tank is. They're going to pull the septic tank out. Sometimes the tanks are abandoned in place.
Hi, everybody. It's great of all of you to be here today. It's an honor to be here, not only with this panel, but also with those who preceded us today. And thank you to all who helped to organize it as well. It's such an important conversation. My name is Ann Welker. I'm Suffolk County legislator for the 2nd Legislative District. So the 2nd Legislative District stretches from Montauk Point to just about the Mauritius Inlet. It's at Westhampton Dunes is actually the district line, and then it runs up and encompasses the village of Westhampton, and then runs up near Gabreski Airport, and then into Flanders. It's an enormous district. It's 60 miles of shoreline. What I don't know, ocean shoreline, what I don't know is how many septic systems are in our district. I think I'm gonna have to find that out. 400,000 antiquated septic systems that you just heard Tom describe that need to be updated. And when we ask why we feel this is so important, Suffolk County is the largest unsewered county in the entire United States. And that dates back, some of you may recall, to the 1960s and 70s when there was the Southwest Sewer District was preparing to come online, and there was quite a lot of chaos and controversy.
Hi again, my name is Tila, and I am a member of the Shinnecock Nation and the director of the Shinnecock Kelp Famers, and a mother of 3 children. And I think as you're walking in here to Chancellor's Hall, there's like a little banner that I saw in it was on one of the light posts, and it said, "Be endlessly curious." And one of the things that I was always curious about was, why is the water around our Shinnecock Territory cleaner than the other water within our region, the town of Southampton? My husband used to work at the Shinnecock Nation Environmental Department, and he was partnered with a representative, a liaison from Indian Health Services. So Shinnecock Nation has been receiving advanced appropriations for wastewater treatment funded directly from Congress through the Indian Health Service to upgrade all of our systems. We do have a bit of a waiting list, but out of 230 residential homes on Shinnecock Territory, over 200 of them have upgraded to advanced nitrogen removing systems. We started upgrading almost 15 years ago. And with seeing the result, we don't have the shellfish closures directly adjacent to our waters where we're doing a lot of our fishing. And so we have started to see this positive change, and so I became really interested in just sharing our story. Yes, it's slightly disruptive, it is a process, but the benefits are truly visible and restorative to our local community, and so that's why I just want to share our story of trying to immediately grow our sugar kelp, which of course feeds on the nitrogen, but these advanced nitrogen removing systems truly do work and are beneficial, and we just really strongly want to encourage everyone to upgrade, and this really is the time to do it at no cost.
Yeah, I'm Tom Barley with the Center for Clean Water Technology. I grew up on Long Island. I grew up in Glen Cove. That's where I first learned how to sail at Seacliff Yacht Club. Hempstead Harbor was the water body there, and it had severe, over the years, severe hypoxia, which is a low oxygen level. A lot of that in the western parts of Long Island Sound, a lot to do with sewer overflows from city sewer systems and local treatment plants. When I went to college, I knew I wanted to do something environmental, and I got an environmental degree.
Had two tiers. The first tier, which essentially equated to the priority zone. The second tier was a secondary zone, which people in that zone tended to wait. So it created a lot of segmentation in terms of the application process. So we heard from Dr. Gobler, who came in last year to the town board at a work session. He came in with Bob DeLuca, president of Group for the East End, Kevin McDonald from the Nature Conservancy, and Fred Thiel. And they talked about how that 2016 plan needs to be updated, because there's still people waiting. There's still people that need to receive the funding and get moving on.
Waters are connected, so it's either going into a water body or it's going into our drinking water. So most people are eligible for it, and if you're, like I know, like Southampton Village, all the village now is in a priority zone. I just did a talk on Hampton Bays Civic Association. All of Hampton Bays is a priority zone. So, I don't know how many people are outside the zones,
May I chime in? Yes, thank you. So, to be clear, there's a separate pot of money, because it's really money that you're talking about, because our current county executive, Ed Romaine, will say repeatedly, all problems of government are problems of money. So thankfully, in November of 2024, we all flipped over the ballot and voted no or yes for Proposition 2. Proposition 2 funds an 1/8 cent tax on purchases on mostly goods and services within Suffolk County. That money goes into a separate pot, and that pot is split in half. Half of that money goes to upgrading IA septic systems, and half of that fund goes to wastewater treatment plants, either to expand them or to build new. So that fund started collecting in March of 25. As of last month, there's approximately $52 million in that fund after a year. And that fund, the length of that fund is 30 years, and it could be renewed after 30 years, but I think it's $30 billion that's projected to be accumulated over the span of that 30 years. So if you're asking, will there be enough money to upgrade your IA septic systems, there will be enough money, because the state is contributing. I think it was last fall, Governor Hochul came down and bumped up the amount of money that the state was contributing, because as you're hearing here, we have a very unique situation and it needs to be addressed. It's critical for all of Long Island, but particularly for Suffolk County. So we're Proposition 2, which was overwhelmingly approved. I think it was greater than 70% of approval by Suffolk County voters. And I've heard said several times now, where do you ever get any 70% of people to agree on anything? So thank goodness our constituents within Suffolk County are aware of the environmental, ecological, and health need for upgrading our septic systems or looking to address wastewater treatment plants.
And I just want to chime in really quickly and just thank Legislator Ann Welker for just all of your efforts and your work, also with County Executive Ed Romaine. You know, I know we're in a
billion. Yeah, you take the 400,000 times the 65,000, that's 26 billion. So let's cut it in half. It's not everyone's going, so that's 13 billion. More than enough for a sewer system. I know when it started, there wasn't that much money available and they weren't looking at these numbers. But I think you need to revisit it, since you spend that much money anyway, you could have a sewer system for everybody.
So there has been historically, I'm not sure what your history is on the East End, but there has been historically tremendous opposition to sewering or wastewater treatment plants because of the concern of development, and that is a long-standing conversation, and it still comes up to this day. Where appropriate in downtown areas, such as being discussed, in West Hampton, you can see a great example of the connection to the Bresky Airport, and the downtown West Hampton village is now sewered. There's a conversation, Michael can talk better about this than I, there's a conversation about downtown Hampton Bays. There's a conversation about an area within Flanders. There's a conversation about downtown Southampton. There already is a wastewater treatment plant in Sag Harbor Village. There's an expansion of that plant that's currently under discussion, because at this point, the east side of Main Street is connected to the wastewater treatment plant. The west side is not, so they're looking to expand that. There's also a conversation, Montauk is their downtown area, as I'm sure you're aware, is due to our sea level rise and coastal resiliency, a very compromised area. There's a discussion about where a wastewater treatment plant would go and the possible or probable relocation over time of downtown Montauk. So where appropriate, wastewater treatment is absolutely, the wastewater treatment plants are absolutely the way to go. But if you start to look at so here's a little example. I'm speaking to another county legislator, and I tell him I have a couple things I need to talk to you about. How much time do I have? He looks at his GPS and says, you have 12 minutes. I'm driving across my district. If I drive across my district, it can take 2 hours. So the length of piping that would be necessary in order to connect so many of our residential homes to wastewater treatment plants would be just impossible financially. And also, it's not within it's not a popular conversation when you start to look at it that way. I'm sure you guys can chime in, but I just wanted to say that there historically has been tremendous opposition to wastewater treatment plants, that conversation is now, that corner is turning, but it's also very site-specific where we're looking to expand.
Likely you have a septic tank and a leaching structure. For those homes that are older than that, the county has a priority rating that they do on their applications. So if you have a failed system, like it's collapsed, you jump to the head of the line. If you have what they call a non-catastrophic failure, which is you either have to pump it out 2 or more times a year, or it's a old brick or block construction. The county counts that as likely to fail. So you get a little bit higher on priority as opposed to somebody who's doesn't have a failed system on that. They are working through those backlogs, and I think eventually they're going to do away with those categories. But right now, that's how it is. So when I work with an individual homeowner, the first question I say is, how old is your system? And they say, oh, it's my house was built in 1940. I say, get it inspected, have them take a picture of the inside of the tank, and 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a cinder block construction. That's just how they did those things. And then we submit the application that way, and it gets you on a higher priority list. Also, I just want to mention one of the things, because it is a voluntary program unless it's new construction or it's a major renovation, like you're adding a bedroom onto your house. But it's really important that you understand the programs. The county grant only gets paid to the contractor, and you have to have the contract approved before you do the work. The state and the town programs allow you to do the install and get reimbursement. But so a lot of times if people are doing construction, they can't wait for a county grant to come in. So I try to get them, if you're thinking about construction, do as much as get your application as soon as possible. The other thing when you're doing your house, they